This is The History of Western Music by Richard Taruskin. It comes in at a whopping 4,066 pages cover to cover. And that's just the history of exactly one kind of music, and it's not even all of the information we could include. It's just some of it. And here we have the Garland Encyclopedia of World Music. It's split into 10 different volumes, split by continent, and it totals about 10,000 pages worth of music information. And just about a decade ago, I would have made it my goal to know absolutely everything in all of those books. All of that seems rather impossible, and so that brings me to the question, what does it actually mean to master a subject? And is it possible that the pursuit of mastery is hindering your progress? To say it another way, is perfection actually artistic? One of the things that I'm learning is that there seems to be a certain liberation that comes from not knowing everything. So let's start with this question. Have you mastered something when you can flawlessly regurgitate every bit of information about that subject? Or does it have more to do with the ability to adapt and come up with creative solutions? This question is basically, how do you and how does society perceive mastery? Obviously, it's impossible to know everything. Think we can all agree there. However, if you've ever been to music school, you know that the implication there seems to suggest otherwise. Music theory in particular seems to be a field where it's expected that you know everything if you want to be taken seriously. It's presented as a finite amount of information that you can and should know all of. But the thing is, there's way too much to know. The last I checked, there was something like 100 million songs on Spotify, and it's like 49,000 new songs are added every day. It would be impossible for you to keep up with all of that. And if you would like a visual representation, this right here are the reading packets that I got at a choir conference. That's not even all the choral music that came out that year. Since it's impossible to know everything, maybe it's possible to know all of the critical information. But then you have to ask the question, what is critical information? A Beethoven fan and a Taylor Swift fan are going to have vastly different opinions on what constitutes critical information. I mean, how many times have you been belittled because you did not know a piece of information that someone else considered to be critical? That expectation doesn't just exist in terms of how much knowledge you have. Classical performance can often feel like you are performing for figure skating judges, and they are just knocking off tenths of points for everything that you get wrong. Art, by its very nature, is imperfect because it's made by humans that are also imperfect. And yeah, you want the art to be good enough so that it reaches what you were trying to say, what you were trying to express. But at a certain point, it becomes so perfect that it's mechanical, cold, and sterile.
Ron, what was wrong with that one?
It was too perfect. It looked machine-made.
I'm not suggesting that we don't try to learn and improve and get better. But we can't know everything, and we can't be perfect. And maybe we shouldn't even want to be. So that shouldn't be the goal. But I do want to improve, and I want to help you improve as well. Which is why I've started making all of these composition resources that I wish that I'd had when I was a younger composer. Like this instrument ranges and transposition chart. It's a desk reference for all musicians who have to deal with transposing instruments. Or maybe you're a brand new composer and all of this music writing stuff seems really overwhelming. So I've got this free resource to introduce you to the composition process. It's an interactive PDF, and it's got links to all of my favorite resources, as well as a lot of additional information on composition. Links to both of those are in the description below, but you can also find them and a lot more on my composition resources page on my website. I'm putting out new resources all the time, so make sure to subscribe to my email list, and you will be notified about new resources first. I'm not sure that anyone would just come out and say, I know everything, but practically this is often how we present ourselves. Putting up a facade that you do know everything is a defensive position. You must work tirelessly to prove that you're not a fraud, that you do in fact know everything. However, not knowing everything and admitting that gives you the freedom to be curious, to ask questions, One of my all-time favorite quotes from the Mythbusters is that failure is always an option. And yeah, maybe failure is an option that we take too often for our liking, but at least it's an option. It's not the end of the world when we fail. We just learned a particular way to not do something. And here's the thing. To not be curious, to not ask questions, it comes with a certain number of risks, which are detrimental to our development as musicians. As composers, we won't listen to where the piece wants to go. We'll imitate standards and we'll write conservatively. And that leads to writing the same piece over and over. As music theorists, we'll miss connections and alternative interpretations of the music. And then, probably worse, we'll attack those who do have alternate interpretations. As performers, we'll become robots. There's a reason, at least for now, computers don't sound very musical. There's a reason, at least for now, that musical playback doesn't sound very musical. As educators, we'll miss the opportunity to connect with our students at the human level. But at worst, we teach them not to be curious, to not show any weakness, and ultimately that hinders their growth. And in all of these things, we would live with heightened anxiety. And what I've been pondering is that this is not an insufficiency on our part. It's not a flaw, but a feature. I believe that acknowledging our limitations creates a deeper connection with our audience. It allows us to create more honest music. And yeah, that's a very vulnerable thing to do. Imposter syndrome is a big deal. Curiosity is one of the best tools that a musician can have. To ask questions, to constantly be learning, to embrace the chaos that exists in the process of learning music, of performing music, of writing music. All of those things make us better. And since we can't know everything, we can learn from everyone. Our collective knowledge is much greater than any one of us possesses. We are often reluctant to listen to those that we perceive know less than us. But if someone knows exactly one thing, and that's all they know, and you don't know that one thing, you can still learn that from them. They can teach you, and you should listen. But you only get there by admitting that you don't know everything, and asking questions, by being curious. To possess all of the knowledge would only get you up to the point that we've already been. To go beyond that requires doing something that we've never done before. So perhaps mastery is knowing when to rely on established principles and when to challenge them for the sake of innovation. So if you don't know everything, like me, take comfort. It's kind of nice, and it's making me a better musician.